Bak quickly turned on his villain mode, his face revealing an irresistible chivalry. One hand resting his chin, the corner of his mouth pulled up into a smile, and asked Ko Noyet, "Miss Ko, aren't you the one? Disciple of Tan Van Tong, moreover, you left Hujia like that. Aren't you afraid that your big brother Chiu Miu won't be able to find you?" Ko Noyet suddenly fell into deep contemplation. Her beautiful face suddenly dyed with sadness, containing feelings that could not be expressed. Lam Bak silently observed Ko Noyet's expression and guessed in his heart that it seemed that Ko Noyet still had deep feelings for Chiu Miu. But she followed along, which was also convenient for her to complete her mission. System strategy. Lam Bak approached Ko Noyet, who was in a sad mood. Her face darkened and she spoke. "I know you are laughing at me, but..." The words were only half spoken and then swallowed back. Ko Noyet bit her lips to cover up her sadness, but the tears suddenly flowing down her beautiful face denounced her sadness. A hand gently reached out. Lam Bak's hand gently lifted Ko Noyet's chin and said, "It turns out Miss Ko is someone who likes to cry like this. I don't mean to criticize you, just remind you, come to my area, you are not afraid." Lam Bak deliberately did not finish his sentence, just hesitated to create a clear villainous look on his face. "Will I eat you?" This strategy made Lam Bak extremely satisfied when he received his villain value increased by 500. Faced with Lam Bak's constant teasing, Ko Noyet could only panic and say incoherent words, You dare." Seeing that this method was extremely effective in gaining more villainous value for himself, Lam Bak gained momentum and pressed Ko Noyet down on the bed, placing his hands right next to Ko Noyet. "Tell me if I dare." Immediately an announcement rang out, the villain value increased by 500. Ko Noyet suddenly became shy and embarrassed, not daring to look straight into Lam Bak's eyes. She was so embarrassed that she blushed and looked away, stammering out, "Even though, after all, you, who have already seen my body." The announcement once again rang out at 35% strategic progress. Although Lam Bak looks cold on the outside, inside he is a little surprised by his speed. Is this 35%? The sound of falling outside the door broke the ambiguous atmosphere. The fork fell at my feet. When Tu Van heard Ko Noyet's words, he couldn't help but be shocked. The sentence could not be complete. "Senior brother." Lam Bak was pressing on Ko Noyet's plump body. Hearing the voice and murderous aura behind him made Lam Bak unable to happily enjoy the joy and only silently groaned. It was over, followed by a feeling of coldness and sadness. Fear surged. Tu Van firmly grasped the sword and quickly pulled it out of the scabbard. On the boat, Tu Van's powerful and loud voice rang out. "What do you mean you had a clear look at her body?" Next was Lam Bak's shrill scream, which was quickly raised to the point of uttering a sentence. "Messi, junior sister, you listened to my excuses." No, listening to my explanation. The boat kept shaking violently due to Tu Van's anger. No matter how he explained, it seemed ineffective. Because Lam Bak's face was swollen, the wound was still red on his face. Suddenly there was a loud noise outside the boat, along with a beam of light. The red light is gradually growing larger outside. Lam Bak walked up to the window to easily observe and ease the current tense atmosphere when he said this Hoa Diem was Thatch Hoa. Tu Van standing behind him still looked very angry and didn't seem to care. But Ko Noyet looked out curiously. Shoulders, claws, parts began to appear and then came out of nowhere. Super Dragon Beast, Peak Bamboo Realm Demon Beast, likes to swallow minerals, contains fire stone seeds in the body that are only one level lower than other fire. Natural talent is hard armor, can transform minerals swallowed until it reached the skin's surface, forming a solid armor. There was still fire in the mouth that hadn't erupted even though the back of it had been burned into a sea of fire. The Super Dragon Beast madly spits fire towards the huge tree. Behind is a strange creature with a white body, full limbs, a little brown color on the top of its head as well as a small tree sprouting from behind the tree, extremely frightened and constantly screaming, "Hey. The creature's eyes closed due to fear, as if he would become ash to fertilize the tree with the fire of that huge beast, when suddenly an extremely majestic voice spoke up, eating a sword. "Here's mine." No longer feeling the heat or the terrifying noise, at this moment, the baby with a tiny tree on his head slightly opened one eye. When I turned around and looked behind the tree, I could only see Lam Bak majestically standing on top of the super beast dragon who had long since passed out. In order to defeat the huge beast, Lam Bak proudly exclaimed that it was indeed a super dragon beast. The master liked to eat this the most, and when the time came, he could bring it back as an offering. The little girl cried out in a small voice, "Hello." Big round admiring eyes looked at Lam Bak. Oh. The boat was motionless in the air, surrounded by green trees, but Tu Van's screams inside caused the originally quiet scene to suddenly be torn apart. Why are you here? Get out of here. Tu Van scowled loudly and wanted to chase Ko Noyet away. Her tone was without any respect. So go back to that bastard Jumia. Ko Noyet is not a gentle girl, patiently letting people trample on her. She loudly argued with Tu Van. I will stay wherever I like. No need for you to worry. Unable to determine victory or defeat with words, the two immediately rushed into a true battle. They began to fight fiercely, with no one giving in. Tu Van swung his sword at Ko Noyet while speaking, in the same tone. There was a lot of discomfort. I see you like my senior brother. Ko Noyet blocked the attack while scowling in response to baseless words. You talk nonsense. I don't like it. The quiet space was filled with only two people fighting non-stop. The sound of blocking echoed continuously in the middle. Tu Van kept swinging his sword while speaking to dispel Ko Noyet's dream. But you keep dreaming. My senior brother, well, I don't like you. Ko Noyet's face became even more unsightly. She continued to deny. I said I don't like you. Suddenly there was a noise outside the door, causing both of them to pause their battle and look towards the door. Lambak has just had a good harvest and the pure white baby is happily returning, carrying a big bag on his shoulder, not forgetting to smile brightly. I'm back. The cute baby also cried out twice. Oh, Dental. Lambak looked at the two people who were guiltily hiding weapons behind their backs and couldn't help but feel strange and asked, What are you doing? There is a rare chemistry between the two of Tu Van and Ko Noyet right now. Rose Up answered in unison, No. Nothing happened. Lambak didn't pay much attention, but pulled out a chair and sat down, softly lamenting a few words. He was dead tired, so he drank water first. Before he could touch the water bottle, the small figure suddenly ran to hug the bottle and poured a lot of water into the cup in front of him. Lambak comfortably picked up the pre-poured cup of water, took a sip and said thank you. The little girl sitting next to the water bottle also calmly poured herself a cup and softly exclaimed twice, Oh yes. Suddenly realizing something unusual in the cry just now, Lambak was startled and spit out water, unintentionally wetting the baby's body, which was white and clean, but was now soaked. Lambak became panicked and cried out, What is this? The cup of water in his hand was also shaken and almost spilled out. The chemistry once again arose between the two girls in front of them. Ko Noyet and Tu Van of course did not know where that girl came from, so they spoke in unison. She came back with you. We wanted to ask you. Unable to accept this chemistry, the two suddenly had a heated argument. Tu Van scolded first, Don't learn from me. Ko Noyet refused to lose and responded, Don't learn from me. Her eyes, they are so close to each other that even outsiders would be frightened. Not paying much attention to the war of words, Lambak gently leaned closer to the little girl sitting on the table, shaking her head back and forth to dry off the water on her body. Little girl, where do you come from? Lambak was curious. Raised his voice. The baby jumped up and cried twice. He looked extremely panicked as he was describing the situation but could only say a few words. But Lambak seemed to understand what it meant, slowly confirming the information. You said just now. Then you were attacked by a super dragon beast. The baby continued to make movements like a super dragon beast, raising his arms forward and then trembling in fear, holding his head.
From beginning to end, he only cried out a few times, but Lambak absolutely understood everything, calmly recounting the exact situation. It spit fire at you. You were very dangerous and hid behind the tree. Continuing the pantomime-like
performance, the child excellently finished the performance with a fighting pose and then quickly fell down pretending to be dead. Lambak was also somewhat satisfied and spoke up, Then I appeared and killed him. Super dragon beast, in a cool way, I can save you. Ko Noyet looked at Lambak incredulously and asked, You still understand the language of another race? Lambak was still in a happy state and explained, Because I was there. Tu Van curiously approached the baby, her mischievous eyes opened wide to ask, What was this little senior brother's name? Then she reached out and pinched the baby's chubby cheek with affection. Lambak hesitated for a moment, because he didn't even know who this cute little girl was, so he had to ask for help from the system. Damn system, what background does this guy have? The system immediately appeared, did not see the specific information of the child, but only saw the prominent text appear. Look up the basic document for the name and race of this creature, need to spend 10,000 villain value. Lambak received useless information that made his excited mood suddenly become irritated. He raised his hand to slash the system, blurted out a curse. Fuck, why don't you take it away? Lambak looked at the child who was happily laughing and joking, constantly calling out, Hey. He was next to Tu Van when he suddenly said nothing as if he was thinking. Let's call it Na. Lambak quickly named the baby. Looking at its face and excited appearance, Tu Van couldn't help but laugh out loud. Nah, it seems this kid really likes this. This name. Lam Bak pondered and speculated, just looking at the basic documents required so much villain value. This guy's background is not small anyway. Lam Bak's current balance is not enough to find it. Understand more, so I have to let it go, and slowly study it later. Lam Bak stood excitedly on the bow of the boat, pointing forward. Perhaps Lam Bak's current enthusiasm was like seeing rolling water waves. Na standing next to him also imitated and pointed forward, her face chalky. Extremely adorable. At Tan Van Tong, the sharp mountain peaks do not have many green trees and are covered with clouds, making this place more mysterious. The boat safely landed in peace. Lam Bak held Na on his head and happily walked forward. His cheerful voice said, Tan Van Tong, I'm home. Behind her was Tu Van, who was upset looking at Ko Noyet trailing behind her and raised her voice. Why are you following us? Go somewhere else. Ko Noyet was angry for no reason and was chased away, just going along the way. Anyway, I'm going to visit Fairy Bitch Van, can you manage it? Tu Van couldn't argue, she just rolled her eyes and mouthed awkwardly. In front was a white duck walking around, the sun cast its chubby shadow. Suddenly another shadow appeared with a voice. A big goose, in the shape of a heart. The duck relied on his beauty, so he arrogantly turned his face away and made a cackling sound, meaning, sorry we don't know each other. Lam Bak was angry. His face showed malice, he let out a sigh, then raised his hands to prepare to grab the duck in front. As if he knew he said the wrong thing, so his whole body trembled uncontrollably. The unlucky duck was grilled by Lam Bak, not forgetting to smile triumphantly and say, Humph, do we know each other now? Suddenly the system has a notification. The host has successfully roasted the sect master's goose. Complete villain act, achieve villain value 2000. In his hand was a delicious duck leg. Lam Bak enjoyed the roasted duck while looking at the panoramic view of Tan Van Tong, and then exclaimed, there were too many people coming to Tu Fong. Lam Bak put his hand to his chin to think, calculating the time, and it was time. So nostalgic. There was still a bit of duck meat left in his mouth after the recent full meal. Looking at the crowd below, Lam Bak smiled brightly and silently said that he had come to the conference to accept disciples once every 10 years. Standing tall and looking down, Lam Bak smiled brightly, put his hands on his hips and couldn't help but feel excited. I don't know how many people will become my junior brothers and sisters this year, suddenly announced. Appears from the system and checks the Sun of Destiny. Lam Bak was cheerful and happy when suddenly stunned, confused. Could it be Tu Miu, that thick-faced guy preparing to hide his identity, then secretly joined Tan Van Tong? At this time, in another place, the beauties appeared one after another, each with information introducing only 3 lines. Damn, fragrant flower value, 70, Trin, fragrant flower value, 75, Con value of fragrant flowers and exotic grass, 80. On the shiny golden card, images of hot girls continuously appeared. Tu Fuang's value for fragrant flowers and exotic grass, 73. Tu Fuang's value for fragrant flowers and exotic grass, 71. A strange, slovenly-looking guy seemed to be the owner of the card. He brought the card close to his face and licked it with his tongue. His face showed excitement as he peeped at the beauties here. Cards, he praised, worthy of being a sect cultivating immortals, just a conference accepting disciples, but there are many beauties whose value of exotic flowers and herbs exceeds 70, completely different from those in our village. Remembering the girls whose looks he didn't like, including shaggy beards, freckles, and not only that, but also muscular men rushing to grab him, calling out, Han Tong, brother Han Tong. That image made him put his hands on the wall and vomited green and red, unable to help but curse and quickly get out of my head. Freed from nausea, he rubbed his mouth a few times to see if he had wiped it off, then stood alone talking with the card, book fairy book, if he could hug all the beautiful women of the entire Tan Van sect. Then to what extent can the realm be increased? Not letting him wait too long, as soon as the question was asked on the card, only 3 words appeared, fusion period. Han Tong couldn't help but exclaim in surprise, you said fusion period. 9 continents, 2 Tien is divided into 8 realms, the body meditates with a pure mind, the whole body is surrounded by aura. This is the Chi refinement period, the first step to grasp spiritual power. Next is the body that can stand firmly on the sword and steadily travel the world. This realm is the bamboo stage. When you reach this point, you can fly with the sword. This time, the body can fly freely and not depend on anything.
This is the realm of the Golden Dan, being able to fly with light. Then comes the body like spiritual energy. The whole body floats. The lower body connects with the host to create flying smoke. The fourth realm is the primordial spirit stage. The primordial spirit can appear. The body splits into two.
The fifth ranked realm is miraculous transformation. The original spirit turns into the original spirit. The sixth realm is the fusion stage. The spirit and body merge into one and return to their original state. The body in this realm stops as normal. Finally, the transcendent tribulation stage and the Mahayana stage, these two high-level realms are truly too strange. The transcendent tribulation stage is like the body being struck by lightning, leaving only bones. And the Mahayana period is a body with unparalleled power just waiting for the moment to explode. Han Tong was silent, looking like he was calmly considering everything. In the entire 9 continents, only the super sect has the fusion technique, so haven't I transformed all of Tan Ban's beauties? Become your own woman. Thinking of this, Han Tong's face clearly revealed the despicableness of longing for the hot women he had just seen on the cards. He could no longer hide the disgust on his face. Dirty thoughts appeared. Now what can I do? From far away in the corner of the wall, there was a purple figure from head to toe sitting muttering something to himself. 2 men passed by, one said, "What's wrong with this person?" The other replied, "That idiot still wants to participate in the Tan Ban sect's discipleship conference. It's truly an eye-opener." Looking to the other side, there was also a white-haired figure looking at the guy muttering to himself without saying anything. So that was our male lead Lambak. Looking at his calm face, it turned out that a new son of destiny had appeared. Suddenly his information appeared on his system panel. He was Han Tong. His level had reached the chi refining stage. His stance was chaotic. His luck was 3000. His characteristics were the son of destiny, the master of the harem. He had a treasure in his body. He was a promiscuous scoundrel. It turned out he was a promiscuous scoundrel. He was lucky enough to survive when he fell off a cliff, and also had the treasure of the Phuong Luke group of people. Girls can become stronger from under the cliff. Seeing Han Tong's attribute table, he placed his hand on his chin and said, 30,000 children of destiny have very low luck, but heaven is truly blind. Such a scoundrel can actually become destiny. Son. This time the system continues to display on the board. This hooligan is not scary. Scary is that this hooligan has a heavenly mandate to protect the safety of the girls in the sect. Please ask the host to take the Phuong Luke pants from Han's hand. Tong, completing the mission rewards 80,000 villain values, and there is no punishment for failure. Hearing that, Lambak immediately asked the system again. There was no punishment. The system immediately said that even if this mission failed, the system would not have any punishment for the young master. Hearing what the system said, Lambak became angry, grabbed the system board and tore it apart, slapping him and not trusting your damn system. After venting to the system, he immediately turned around and walked away, obviously secretly plotting something. The guy Han Tong here is looking sideways as if searching for something. Where is the beautiful woman who is said to be worth over 90 years old with exotic flowers and fragrant grass? Then after a while he held something in his hand and walked around saying, even if the Tan Ban sect fairies around him were at best only worth 89 to mix with fragrant herbs. As soon as he went up the stairs, he saw a woman's silhouette. She was wearing a pair of blue shoes like a fairy walking down to earth. Then Han Tong looked up and saw the girl's rosy, plump lips. Looking from afar and covering the whole body, it was a beautiful woman wearing a dress that matched the same color as her blue shoes. Seeing that, Han Tong's eyes lit up and he blushed shyly. Then he looked at the yellow Tien Mok thing in his hand. The image of a girl appeared. Her name was Dak Ko Nuk. The value of fragrant flowers and exotic grasses was 99. The country would fall, seeing that. His eyes were hungry and drooling. He laughed disgustingly and said that if Quan Phuong Luke turned Dak Ko Nuk into my woman, what level could he rise to? As soon as he finished speaking, Quan Phuong Luke appeared on Kim Dan, Kentucky. He suddenly shouted Kim Dan Kai. This time he used his tongue to lick his lips and said Dak Ko Nuk obediently wait. Husband will come find her soon, and then he laughed in a disgusting and perverted way. Then suddenly, from afar, there was a tall male figure flying in the sky and landing where Dak Ko Nuk was standing. Han Tong angrily clenched his fists and thought bitterly, where did this hippo come from? Yet he dares to approach my woman and have to kill him. On this side, Lambak was standing and talking to Dak Ko Nuk. He said, why did you come here, master? She immediately replied, master went into retreat, so he sent me. Hearing the 2 words, retreat forest, he immediately broke his face and said in surprise, if I saw her in retreat, she would probably run to Lac Vien to play. He laughed helplessly. Moving to the Tan Ban sect garden, a light sneeze suddenly rang out. It turned out that the sneeze was from a blonde person. She was the master of Lambak and Dak Ko Nuk. she said. That bastard Lamback is probably talking bad about me. Next to her was a woman who raised her hand holding a pink towel and said, Sister Bitch Van, wipe it away. Bitch Van immediately took the towel and said, Ta to you lowly. Bitch Van brought the towel to her face and wiped it, making squishy noises. At the same time her little feet were playing with the newly created Sandman. Waiting for her to finish cleaning, she said, until the conference ends she must let that bastard know what a respectful teacher is. She is the fairy Lin Tay Fong Fong, the master of Bitch Van. Turning to the other side, there was a big bell on the platform and a person held a long wooden stick and slammed it into the bell, making the bell ring throughout the sky. Suddenly a voice shouted loudly, the 474th Tan Van Tung Disciple Admission Conference officially began. He continued, I am the host Tan Din. He is a guy with a strange hairstyle wearing dark glasses and gesticulating with his arms and legs. He smiled happily and said as if introducing the competitions, the first level of the receiving event was. While he was speaking, suddenly a blue teleportation gate appeared right in the middle of the field. The island is mysterious. Looking inside the moving door, we see an island with volcanoes surrounded by a vast ocean. Perhaps the participants in this competition will have to fight each other or survive. Does it exist in this mysterious world? The host of this conference is Tan Din. He briefly explained the contest rules. In the first round, the island's secret realm, there are a total of 10 islands. Each island will accommodate 100 islands. Tester. Tan Din continued to explain further, but to pass the level, he had to find the yin-yang fish hidden everywhere on the island, collect a pair of yin-yang fish from the agency. There were 3 pairs on each island. Can compete for yin and yang fish. There will only be 3 people who will be able to achieve the complete yin-yang fish pair. Rank first, second, third in order of completion time, the host said, laughing happily. Tan Din pointed to all the contestants and smiled confidently, and continued to avoid the participants misunderstanding what he meant. In other words, on every island there will be 3 winners, of course in the process. Death and fighting on the island is not real death.
After dying on the island, the participants will immediately disappear and then return to the square intact as before. It turns out the death is fake, the contestants when I heard the fight. I was scared and now my anxiety has eased a bit. The host continued to speak loudly, then observed the expressions of each person in the scene through the giant screen in the
square. As soon as Tan Din finished speaking, the big screen in the square turned on. Up right in front of the screen were 5 teachers sitting quietly in observation chairs. Lamback stands right at the far right near where Doc Ko-nak is sitting. Doc Ko-nak will replace Bitch Van to come and see to receive his disciples. Our Lamback observes with a stern expression, thinking in his heart. The players participating in the competition have all entered. Normally everyone will fight extremely fiercely in the first round. But this guy, the screen is showing the beach where all the contestants on the island have started, leaving only Han Tong standing with 2 people, a man and a woman, who were observed by Lamback. Clear from the beginning until now. At this mysterious island at this time, there were 3 people standing on the shore, 3 pairs of eyes looking at each other tensely. It seemed like a fight was about to happen right there. The white-haired young man spoke first with a harsh voice. I don't know why. When I first looked at you, deep in my heart, a desire arose that urged me to kill you. He clenched his fists, his eyes constricted. Pink-haired girl. The back of his hand touched the hilt of the sword as if preparing to attack. Having said that, the white-haired man's feet kicked hard on the sandy ground and he jumped up and ran to where Han Tong was standing. He shouted loudly, Go away. His white-haired hand emitted a white light that shone blue and rushed towards Han Tong. Han Tong raised his eyebrows and looked at the white hair. He had a strange smile. When the white hair's attack was close to his face, a strange seal appeared on his right eye. With a whooshing sound, fresh blood from no one knew who it was came pouring out like a stream, splashing in all directions, almost staining the whole outfit and the sand under the person's feet red. It turned out that the white-haired guy was secretly stabbed from behind. He was surprised and didn't understand who stabbed him. Because of the pain and blood loss, his arms were stiff and his body didn't dare to move too much. The blood just kept coming from inside. His mouth poured out. He had difficulty moving just a little bit, turned his head to look behind, and saw that it was the person he had always trusted. He let out a cry of pain, Van Amu, both in pain from the skin wound and from the pain. The trauma caused by his own sister. Her hand seemed to be out of control and she could hardly control herself as she tightened her grip on the sword as if she was angry at the person she was stabbing. Abandoning all the brotherly love she had ever had, she said, Brother Tin Lang, I won't allow you to attack Brother Han Tong. As she spoke, she laughed in horror. Her face was covered in the blood of love. Her pupils glowed as if something was controlling her mind. The scene in front of the screen appeared. Then AM was hugging the bastard Han Tong and laughing happily, asking each other, "Han Tong brother, am I good?" He immediately replied, "Very beautiful." Looking a little further away, I saw that bastard Han Tong holding hands with 3 beautiful women at the same time. The 2 girls on both sides said, "Han Tong brother, your appearance when in danger without panicking is so cool. Han big brother Tong is the coolest." He laughed happily when he heard beautiful women praising him like that. On this side of the screen is Lam back observing his every move. He secretly thought to himself, maybe I should find a way to kill this guy during the discipleship conference. Isn't it right that I suddenly have murderous intentions towards this guy Han Tong? Lam Bak seemed to doubt himself and frowned. Is it because of the mark on his face that makes all the women have feelings for him? And men want to kill him? Suddenly a voice rang out in the center chair. It was the Master Tu Tu Fong Fong, and the Master of the Tan Ven Sect Tu Tu said, "Look at this kid. Why do I suddenly feel anxious in my heart?" On the other side, Master Nak Din Fong Fong, the real man Nak, who also replied, "Boss, do you also feel like that?" "Me too." Hearing both of these people say strange feelings over their Phi Hak Fong Fong, the owner, Dan Hak, also said, and so did the old man. Seeing those 3 men speaking poorly about Han Tong, Tan Lin Fong Fong, the owner of Thuong Lin Fong, said, "I feel like this kid is very pleasing to my eyes, so I wanted to take him to Tan Lin Fong, but unfortunately Tan Lin Fong didn't take advantage of it." Male disciple's grave. On this side, Da Ko Nak, who had been sitting and observing Han Tong all this time, also began to speak in agreement with Thuong Lin. She said her thoughts. "I also felt the same way, but I felt it was a bit wrong, so I said." Da Ko Nak immediately showed a suspicious expression as she examined Han Tong's situation. On this side, Lam Bak was concentrating on thinking. After hearing what the sect masters said about the name Han Tong, he began to doubt his strength. Even their sect masters had the feeling that this was something strange. The writing on his face doesn't seem to have appeared in any previous episode. It's a new ability he has. If you feel suspicious, you must investigate clearly, so Lam Bak immediately used his thoughts to secretly order the system. The system must update information about Han Tong. Of course, you have to attack everything you want. Changing his system table, the villain value -5,000 was updated with information about Han Tong. When he saw the information board about this guy Han Tong, he thought, indeed, he has the new ability Demon Nature Courage, and his cost has increased by 1,000. One evening in the forest it looked extremely dark and scary. The wind was blowing loudly along with Han Tong's loud laughter, and in front of him and the group of women was a man whose lover left him to follow Han Tong. Looks extremely pitiful. Han Tong on this side was extremely enjoying the feeling of crazy joy when surrounded by great beauties that he had used his ability to capture. They were competing to surround him. Han Tong smiled non-stop. His appearance was very elegant. He freely expressed his animalistic nature. With one hand holding countless beauties, he caressed the beauties, thinking happily with a very happy face. Rude, he thought while smiling crookedly. He's done with another girl. Hearing him say that, the other beauties expressed their jealousy. They said with a coy voice mixed with a little resentment, "Brother Han Tong, you are so ugly." Hearing the beauties say so, Han Tong's heart was now extremely radiant, as if celebrating a festival. In his heart, just thinking about his special energy made him extremely happy, comfortable and highly satisfied. His face was a little red from being drunk. His eyes looked up to the sky. His expression looked extremely happy. He thought, if I only had this ability, I would be able to quickly pay off all of Quan Phuong Luke's debts. Debt when buying Ma Ting Chi Mao. The demonic face is known as a face cursed by heaven. Women who see this face will have sympathy, but men will extremely hate it. Han Tong thought about the next step. He cunningly continued to think. Moreover, he could also take advantage of this power to get all the women of Tan Van Tong, to dominate Tan Van Tong. Just thinking about that made Han Tong happy like crazy, his eyes sparkling with ambition and looking extremely rude. In front of Han Tong, there was a man who was betrayed by his lover and ran after Han Tong and knelt down in front of him. He looked extremely miserable and desperate. His trembling hand covered in blood was raised high. He was having difficulty. Using my last strength and breath, I called your name, Soc Noyet. His face looked extremely painful. There was some blood left at the corner of his mouth. His face was covered in sand and dust. He raised his bloody hand, trembling and crawling on the ground with great difficulty. You still don't understand why you have to suffer and endure this pain, constantly complaining. Why did you betray me? Didn't we promise to go together until the end? Star. Even though he was now very weak and had no strength at all.
Because he still loved Soc Noyet so much, he tried to muster the last bit of strength to hold her leg, not wanting her to leave even though his hand was bleeding. So many. Soc Noyet. Because Han Tong's ability took away all her reason, her mind was no longer alert. Her face was black and gray without seeing her eyes. Angry when he held her hand, she turned her head
towards him and angrily insulted, this name. Soc Noyet now looks extremely scary and strange. She is no longer the girl he loved in the past but looks like a devil. She angrily looked at him and said, "How dare you touch me with that? Those dirty hands?" As soon as she finished speaking, she immediately picked up the knife without any hesitation. Regret or hesitation in the panic and horror of everyone around her. Around her, the other beauties seemed to no longer have any sense, but showed an extremely savage smile and red glowing eyes looking extremely satisfied. When the boy saw the person he loved treating him like that, he was extremely hurt and disappointed. His eyes were lifeless, his face was surprised, his mouth was speechless, and tears fell freely. At the end of the sentence, Soc Noyet seemed to have lost all reason, like she was crazy. Without any mercy she held a knife and slashed the boy to death in an instant. Her face looked extremely horrifying. With a bit of satisfaction, she slashed and said these things. Extremely strange and scary words. "I will kill you." Blood was splattered everywhere. The scene at that time was heartbreaking and frightening. In Soc Noyet's hand, she held the sword stained with that unfortunate boy's blood. Her expression, looking extremely satisfied, happily said, "Gone." Even though she killed that man, when she sat down on the ground, Soc Noyet's crazy actions did not stop, but became even more terrible when she saw that the leg that the man had just grabbed was still stained with his blood. "You," she said as she looked, "there's also this." Without hesitation, Soc Noyet grabbed the sword tightly. She went crazy, raised the sword high, and said, "This leg has been touched by another man, it's dirty. I have to get rid of it." Soc Noyet's face now looks extremely savage and scary. Her eyes are wide open, her pupils are as red as blood, her mouth smiles loudly with contentment. She took the sword with her own hands, raised it high, then cut off her legs in an extremely terrible way without any pain. In her head now, she only thinks about extremely scary and haunting things. "It's dirty, chop it, chop it, chop it. It's not worthy of brother Han Tong." Han Tong himself, who had witnessed everything from beginning to end, was also surprised by Soc Noyet's extreme actions and reactions. His expression was now so scared that his face turned blue. He said fearfully, "Actually, there was no need to go to this extent." Even though she heard Han Tong say that, Soc Noyet still seemed to lose her mind, absent-mindedly looking at Han Tong with white eyes like a lost soul. She still stubbornly answered with extremely unreasonable sentences. She said a scary way, "No way. Must cut it. Its owner must also be killed." The girls around were also blinded and lost their reason. They praised it, and they said some extremely cruel things. "Not wrong. Kill. So we must kill this contaminated woman." Hearing such magical words, Han Tong was also helpless and did not know what to say, silently sweating out of fear. After watching everything that had happened so far, Lam back here also understood why the system assigned him this mission. He stood still, thinking, tossing and turning, realizing that there was no punishment for failing the mission. When he saw the beauties just now, when he saw Han Tong, he seemed to have lost all reason and acted extremely strange and scary. Lam Bak was extremely worried. His face looking straight ahead looked extremely serious. "Tuc, I think that if we don't destroy Quan Phuong Luke, then let alone the female test takers on the island right now, I'm afraid that even my junior sister, senior sister, and even my master will become like that." This devilish, mindless look. At this time in Phu Bich Hoa Vien, the pure golden sunlight on the clear blue sky looked like an extremely beautiful and radiant painting. Fairy Bitch Van and Tu Loli are intoxicated, attentively playing the game of building sand castles. Both looked extremely excited and passionate. Their eyes were wide open and they looked very excited. The final step is to place the flag with the image of two people on top of the castle, and you're done. That's why they look extremely cautious, spending a lot of effort planting each flag one by one. After completing it, Bitch Van Fairy admired the finished product passionately, and was proud of the effort she had put in. Fairy Bitch Van said with satisfaction that it took so much effort. Finally finished covering it. But her joy didn't last long. As soon as she finished speaking, the finished product collapsed right before her eyes because Lam Bak jumped down. Lam Bak hurriedly ran out from the sand castle that he had just destroyed a Fairy Bitch Van. He quickly reported, "Master, there is an urgent matter." As soon as he jumped down, there was a notification from the system that his villain value increased by 100. Lambak at that time looked extremely confused and panicked. He didn't understand why, because he didn't know what he had just done. To increase the villain's value like that, he said confusedly, huh? Lambak was so innocent that he didn't know that he had just wasted a lot of the sweat and effort of Bitch Van and Loli, making both sides extremely angry. Devoured Lambak alive. The scene at this moment looked extremely scary. Thunder rumbled because of the anger of the two girls. Bitch Van was extremely angry at this time. She couldn't control her anger, and raged on Lambak's body. She quickly sat on top of him to hold him back, grabbed his hand and used all her strength to lift it up, her mouth constantly scolding in anger. "Why don't you look up when you land and destroy the sand castle that I worked so hard to build?" She let Lambak cry out in pain, "Master! I'm about to break my arm." Fortunately, there was Tittle by her side, feeling sorry for her, so she stood up and asked for forgiveness for Lambak. She gently spoke, "Sister Bitch Van, Lambak seems to be about to die." At the same time, Tittle pressed her two beautiful braids. Seeing that little Loli was concerned about him, Lambak quickly called out for help with an extremely pitiful and pale face. His face was white, his eyes were spinning like pinwheels, his mouth was asking for help. "Little Loli, save me." After hearing Tittle's apology, Bitch Van calmed down. She slowly released Lambak's hand and reluctantly said, "Huh? Out of respect for little Loli, I'll spare you this time." Bitch Van stood up and let go, letting Lambak lie on the ground. After Lambak was released by Bitch Van, his whole body felt sore and soft like a noodle. He sighed extremely relieved, he happily said, finally freed. But Bitch Van still did not calm down, and continued to explode with her rising anger, shouting loudly to chase Lambak and go home, making him explode. Bitch Van's mouth chased Lambak away, but she still decided to suppress her anger. Her face was not very good, the anger was still there, but Bitch Van was rational enough to ask, "Say, what's wrong?" She looked at him. "Understand that you should quickly say everything and don't hide it." Lambak was lying on the ground, his face covered in blood, covered in wounds, still trying to smile and talk. The conference recruited disciples. He mixed in with those 10,000 disciples. His ability was very strange. Lambak tried to continue, preparing to make all the girls in Tan Van Sect become his harem. Hearing Lambak's words, Bitch Van suddenly became angry, flew into a rage. "What did you say? That kid intentionally hit my disciple. You got so angry. I wanted to beat him and feed him to the pigs." Saying then every footstep she passed left a loud thumping sound. Bitch Van said as she hit the injured person named Lambak. He was tired from his illness, and was no longer able to endure it. He begged her, his master, or someone to give him some hope. "Have fun." More blood poured out from everywhere, his eyes turned white. Bitch Van decisively held Lambak's hand. She shouted energetically, pulling Lambak with her, "Let's go, we're going to Tutu Fong." Both decided to leave together. The atmosphere seemed more positive for Lambak. Bitch Van's power exploded at this time, ready for the person who defeated Lambak to be beaten to a pulp. Before leaving, Lambak did not forget to say goodbye. Then the two rushed up into the blue sky. Bitch Van jumped straight into the sky. Lambak did not have time to figure out anything and was pulled along. Unable to bear it, foaming at the mouth, screaming, "Master, I want to vomit." "Slow down a bit. The speed is so fast that he can't adapt." He's shocked. His face is cold. Lambak is afraid of this kind of high speed. A voice echoed, laughing lowly, "I'll go first and come back next time."